Jackie from Julian Campbell Foundation, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about three main things that we've learned working with children to really empower them in managing their mental health and well-being. And so if you are watching live, whether you're watching live or you're watching a rerun, thank you for making time for this conversation. And it's a really important conversation, one of the most important conversations we can have. And, you know, what I've seen is parenting is not what it used to be. About 50 or 60 years ago, depression or anxiety was usually something or a phenomenon that we saw in older people retiring, and because they were retiring they started to have mental health difficulties, and with each decade the ages have got younger and younger. And during the pandemic, it's not uncommon to see young people 3 or 4 years old going to accident and emergency with panic attacks, having body issues, eating difficulties or problems, bulimia, anorexia. And if you are somebody that cares deeply about the next generation, like I do, it's just really concerning to see that these mental health challenges are happening earlier and earlier. And it's really difficult for a young person to articulate what they're dealing with. Anxiety looks like anger, and sadness shows up as silence. And we're left guessing and trying to figure out, like, what is going on with my child. And so today we're going to talk about three sections, like emotional coaching, how we've learned how to do this, setting boundaries, and also daily habits that we can put in place now that will really transform things. And emotional coaching, I mean, this one is a game changer. And some of you would have seen me talking about the JCF mood map. So mood is a mixture of two things, like how much or how little energy you've got and how you're feeling in that moment. Are you feeling really, really negative, or are you feeling really, really great? And it's those two things, how much or little energy you've got and how that degree of pleasantness, like feeling great or feeling rubbish, that gives you the mood in the moment. And what we've seen is that when we give our mood map to young people, it really helps them identify where they are. Because once they see where their mood is, they feel safe and heard. And then it's easier for them to, or easier for us to support them or empower them in moving their moods. So this is the JCF mood map. So we've got like the energy, the high energy moods at the top, the yellow and the red. And we've got the low energy moods at the bottom. We've got the blue and the green. And so really, when anything happens, it's really, really good for them to identify where they are in the moment. Like, are they high energy and feeling really rubbish? So are they stressed or anxious? Are they in the red? If they can't articulate the mood, they can say, or you could say, like, where are you right now? If you don't have the mood map and you're used to using it, and they can identify if they're in the red or in the blue. And then once they've identified that, then you can start looking at specific moods. And and this is really good here, because once they can see what anxiety looks like, and they've said to you that they're feeling anxious for some reason or they're feeling angry, then the next thing to do is to support them in managing that. Once they've got a name to it, then they can do something about it, because like a mood like anger needs an outlet. It doesn't need to be controlled. So once they've noticed and they've identified that they're high mood and they're feeling really negative, then you can give them something like an outlet. So what works best for your child? Is it something like painting or drawing? Is it some kind of exercise? I had somebody once, like one of our parents, their young person, they had this big massive trampoline, and this really helped kind of like eliminate the stress and kind of like bring them down. So what kind of activity would that young person in your life prefer? to be able to change the mood state. And then once they've been doing this, it could be some kind of exercise, or it could be some kind of like drawing, or some kind of painting, or even speaking with you, then we could always go back and visit the mood map. And then they can say like where they point where they are. So it could be still in the reds, maybe, but a lower energy, or it could be in the blue, or it could have even moved across. Let's go this way, moved across to the green. And this is good because then you'd have done the activity long enough for them to change their mood state. So the first thing to do would be for them to name the feeling. And let's say, for example, let's talk about you, because in that moment when they're naming the feeling, you might be feeling triggered or anxious or angry yourself. And so it's good really to pause and slow everything down. And it's really good to breathe and take a breath in. So take a breath in on three, hold for three, and then relax for three. Or take a deep breath in and then count for 10, and then breathe out. And and this way we're staying present, you're staying in their world, and you're managing yourself as well. So let's say, for example, that they said that they're angry and they've identified themselves in the red part of the map. You've taken that deep breath and you're just breathing out slowly, and you've given them some activity to do, whether it's speaking with you, whether it's doing some painting or doing some exercise, and then checking their mood again to see whether there's been any shift or whether it's come down. And that all might take, it could take 20 minutes, it could take half an hour. And um and and so let's talk about the next thing that you can do. And let's take away the mood map, the JCF mood map. And if that's something you're interested in, then please do indicate in the chat and we can send one to you. So it's really, really important to look at the boundaries. So when we're talking about boundaries, we want the young person in your life to feel safe, safe to be able to express themselves. So where they know where their limits are. And like rather than just say something like, let's say for example, they are angry. This is before you've done anything and they slam the door, and you say something, you could easily say something like, you slam that again and you're grounded. Or let's say, for example, they're up on social media at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. So some of our young people do this. Like you could just run in there and say, what are you doing? Stop that right now. And that would trigger a kind of response. So rather than saying that, which is not really going to work in the long run, it's best, for example, just to say, look, to explain, if it's a door slamming, this is the way we express ourselves. Like, we express our anger in a specific way, and slamming doors isn't healthy. And sometimes it's, are you going to speak with them at that moment when they are angry, or are you going to wait for them to calm down a little bit first and then speak with them? Because this might be the best way. So if you've noticed that they're angry and they've identified themselves as red on the mood map, you give them an activity to do, and then it calms them down. And you've done your breathing exercises to make yourself feel good and calm and present. Then you speak with them once they're calm and say, look, this is not how we do things. So, for example, with the social media one, rather than running in at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, it's good to speak with them when they're more approachable and say, look, it's really important that you go to bed at this certain time and that you wake up at this certain time. And in the week, you've got how many, give them those boundaries, like how long can they have of social media. I'd say no more than 2 hours in the week time and 3 hours at the weekend, and really stick with that, because being firm and kind gives that kind of respect, and also as well gives that communication. And so now we want to talk about the daily habits. Like, what does it mean to build up the well-being? with a young person. And so, really, what we're seeing is that consistency is the key here. So, whatever you're doing it every day because you're building up in that way, you're building up the emotional intelligence, you're building up the resilience. And in a fast changing world like this, the emotional intelligence and the resilience are the things that are really going to help our young people, because young people with higher amounts of emotional intelligence and are more successful. They're the ones that get the promotions. They're the ones that have happier lives. They're the ones that get on with their family members, and they're learning everything from us as their role models, and how we behave and how we carry ourselves. So, the last thing we're going to talk about in the daily habits, whatever it is, for example, could it be a morning check in before they're going to school? Or, I mean, I know now's the summer holidays, but like, what are you going to be doing today? Like, what kind of mood are you going to be in today? Because, like, we think that we're at the effects of things, but they can actually, we can encourage and use this as well. Like, how are you going to be today? Oh, I'm going to be really happy. I'm going to be courageous. And really setting the tone of the day, what needs to be done and who do they need to be. And also having a little check-in on the mood map together, you saying your mood and them saying their mood. So that needs to be a regular thing. So if you're doing that first thing in the morning, then do that every day, first thing in the morning. Or maybe it could be after school or in the afternoon. There could be some time that you're spending with them. So it could be 10 or 15 minutes together where you're listening for what it is that they're saying and spending time, not even saying anything, but spending time being in their world, not even saying anything, and really getting what they're saying, getting their communication, and asking open questions so they can really express themselves more. Because if anything's happened, then at least they'll know that they can come and speak with you about it. They can come and ask you questions, and then they know that they can count on you. um, Research shows as well that young people that are present at 5 or more meals a week, that they are better balanced, that they have higher degrees of emotional intelligence, because they're sitting down, when you're sitting down with your family members and they're talking about their day and you're talking about your day. No mobiles in that conversation. It's really important, because like in those conversations they're learning from you. And if you're sitting there on your phone, then that's not the message that you want for them. So they're modeling from you. So no mobile phones, and you're all talking about what kind of day you've had and what you've dealt with, and really listening for. And again, it's not just a once a week, it's something that needs to be consistent every day, because the more you put into the young person into in your life, listening to what they would to what's going on and engaging with them, then the quicker you'll see the results. You'll be able to you're really developing them and their resilience and their emotional well-being and their emotional intelligence. It can even be gratitude. So what can they what can they be grateful for? And this can be a daily practice. And some parents that I talk with, like, instead at bedtime, they spend time with their young people at bedtime. Doesn't necessarily have to be like reading a bedtime story, anything like that. It could be, but then, like, it's a really great time of the day. The whole day's passed and the young person can share that time with you, what their day's been like, what are they dealing with, and what are their plans for tomorrow. And a lot of young people really like that. And plus as well, like, rather that than them being on social media and all of these things, which usually goes on from 10 o'clock through to sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with some of the young people we're working with. So these kind of communications, being consistent with that, and them knowing that they can count on you at a specific time doing a specific thing every day, really does make the difference. So today we've talked about 3 ways or 3 things that you can put in place to really develop emotional intelligence. And because emotional intelligence a young person being aware of their mood, knowing how to manage their mood, working with the mood map and identifying their mood, and then doing certain activities to help them manage that, then that is a beginning of emotional intelligence. And the boundaries as well. So it needs to be clear boundaries of what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. And then thirdly, when you're showing up for the young person in your life, these daily habits, turning up every day for that young person really does make the difference. So thank you for watching this video. Please share it with who you can share it with. My name's Jackie and I'm speaking on behalf of Julian Campbell Foundation. We work in different countries with young people that are suffering from stress, anxiety, and and we help them, give them the skills that they need to be able to manage themselves and give them the skills that they can use for life to manage their mental health or well-being. So thank you for watching this video. Please do share this video. And if there's anything that you want me to talk about in next week's video, please do message me and indicate that. And good evening. And we'll speak with you very, very soon.